Certainly one of the things to look at is if you have an employee doing a risky job, if that employee isn't well nourished or well hydrated, there may be instances where they are less alert in situations that could be more dangerous. Additionally, if sack lunches are offered through the cafeteria, the kinds of foods within those sack lunches, if people are working out of doors, is incredibly important. That whole idea of caring about health, caring about nourishment throughout a day, doesn't just relate to a person's ability to be productive, but it also relates to what might potentially be employee injury costs. We learn from what people can tell us about their eating habits, and then the next step is to make changes that will very much fit their lifestyle. There's some evidence, some research to show that fruits and vegetables tend to be associated with higher energy levels. And so one of the things that we tried to do in the cafeteria was to make sure that those fruits and vegetables were close to the front of the cafeteria line, and that they were displayed in a really beautiful way so that they were very tempting. Workplace policy is so much influenced by upper level management, and so having upper level management involved in lunch and learn sessions, for example, meant that often policy changes occurred because of what they were learning during these lunch and learns.
It's not uncommon for people to eat breakfast here, but sometimes if you have a really busy schedule and you don't have time to get out for lunch, you have that opportunity to at least grab a bowl of cereal or some fruit or something. They've made a lot more healthy choices. There's usually bananas or apples or grapes or something there, as well as the cereal for us to partake in if you need that mid-morning snack or a breakfast.
And you know, the breakfast, it's not that huge of an expense once you think about it. You go and get granola bars, they're 2 boxes for $5, or you go and get yogurts, they're 10 for $5. But it pulls everybody together and it kind of just gets you ready and excited for your day here.
Employees who are healthy and feel that a company cares about their health are probably going to be employees who are very committed to being as productive as possible in the work site, so that idea that upper level management cares about health is incredibly important.
Driving occurs for commuting purposes, and it also occurs for recreational purposes and also for the home life. And if we can encourage the safe driving across all those venues and those spaces, then we are looking at the total safety of our worker.
Commuters tend to overdrive, meaning they're more comfortable in their surroundings. They know exactly where they're going. They've done it hundreds, if not thousands of times before. And so you'll see actually speeds, when it's not totally congested, you'll see speeds higher during commuting times.
There are some policies that have been put in place, policies on lighting and marking. So slow-moving vehicles are marks that are put on farm equipment, the lighting, and we have also shown in our data that states that have more stringent policies on lighting and marking, they actually have lower crash rates.
Safe traveling distance. Keep anything that would distract you from focusing on what you were doing, driving that vehicle. Put down the phone, the food, whatever else people would do when they'd be driving versus actually attending to the driving.
Expecting the unexpected, or being prepared to react to something that's not expected.
Our drivers are very highly trained, and we have full confidence in them that they can handle a variety of situations that might arise on the bus. You know, in the event that they need a little bit of extra help, our supervisors are on the street on a daily basis monitoring our routes and just providing that extra help to our drivers.
Some employers do have a can't use an electronic handheld device while operating their vehicles. In fact, I think there's more and more going to that. There's a reason people are doing that, because it makes a difference.
We have created a cell phone and texting policy for all of our drivers that they need to read, understand, and sign off on before they're allowed to drive any of our vehicles. It strictly forbids texting while driving. We do not allow any texting. If you're caught texting while driving any of our vehicles, whether it be a commercial vehicle or farm equipment, we have the ability to terminate.
The person who's working 60 hours a week, they're really putting themselves at risk, and they're even in some jobs putting work at risk, because when you are sleep deprived, like a third of Americans are, you're more likely to make an error, you're more likely to actually use poor judgment, and a fifth of all driving accidents are due to being drowsy.
We encourage them, if they're tired, to go home. We encourage our drivers to take breaks. I coach that they take a break every 2 hours. We're fairly lucky in that none of our trips are long.
Impaired driving is not limited to driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Certain prescription medications as well as non-prescription medications can impair the ability of a driver to safely perform their driving duties.
The driver training, we do talk a lot about alcohol abuse and alcohol prevention. If we suspect that somebody is under the influence of either a controlled substance or alcohol, we will pull them and send them up for a drug screen. Luckily, we have not had to do that yet.
We're in a zero fatalities campaign. We want to reach that goal. Everybody says you'll never reach zero fatalities. You'll never reach any goal if you don't work at it.
It's important to have a safe work environment, not just for cost control, but also to make the place a place of employment where people want to actually come and spend their 8, 10, 12 hours a day working. There's an obligation to protect the health and safety of workers. The bottom line is basically to make the workplace a place where you can get people wanting to come to work. So it's good for retaining employees. You know, it should be not just a benefit of work, but an expectation. It's really taking care of the person, whether they're at home, at work, traveling, on vacation, so that we can give people the tools and techniques in order to keep themselves not just safe, but well. A lot of total worker health is managing risks at work and making sure we're also managing those same risks at home.
If you were going to be doing something like tree trimming or up on the roof or something, I would be much more conscious of what was going on from the stuff that you learn here at work. You know, I'm not just going to hop on the deck and then jump on the next railing and jump up onto the roof anymore. You know, you're going to get a ladder and get up on the roof the way that you should be, instead of trying to climb and hang onto the gutter system and pray you don't fall off.
Every now and then we have to remind ourselves, this is very dangerous. So take it easy, leave what's home at home, and focus on what you're doing. An injury can happen in a second. Get out of the truck, I just need to start the saw just for a second, just to cut this one stick. And that stick can come back and hit you in the eye, the chainsaw can come back.
Hard hat required, ear protection. This is something new this year. We wired them into our radios. I have some Kevlar gloves, which is the same material that's in these chaps. They're long fibers, so when the chainsaw catches these fibers, it pulls them out and actually plugs up the saw, and it'll stop it just like that. I'll either have a really good day or I'll have a really bad day. And if I'm having a bad day, a lot of times I'll just tell him, I said, hey, things just ain't going good today and let's just be done. And we'll come down here and run this or do something different.
There's times when he's come out and it's been very hot, I'm done. That's fine. I think it's happened once since he's been here, maybe twice since he's been here, but there's times when you just get completely exhausted.
We get paid by the hour and not by the tree. So we can be out in the timber, and if I see a tree I don't like or unsafe, I'll walk right by it. Where other loggers, they have to cut it if it's marked. And they want to cut as many trees per hour or per day as possible, where safety is our top concern.
A safe, clean, neat warehouse is going to be a safe, clean, neat working environment. Not only for the company to prevention of damages and claims, but also workers' comp and injury claims. Again, those two go hand in hand. If employees walk in and it's a mandate that there's a certain level of standard in the warehouse as far as cleanliness and being proactive and keeping neat and tidy, they're going to do the same thing with the equipment that they drive, whether it's a CDL truck or a forklift or the product that they're handling. So it gives us incentive as far as a company to go out and promote business. It really puts a mindset to the people that work here to make sure that they're doing the things they need to do to keep themselves and everyone else safe.
If you have proper procedures put in place, when an emergency does happen, it's automatic. People don't have to stop and think. And so we formed a safety committee, and in the early days there was a lot of low-hanging fruit, a lot of things that needed to be done. And the safety committee identified those things that needed to have been done. Simple things such as signing the back of the inspection certificate on a fire extinguisher.
I think a lot of people have had a lot of safety suggestions approved. It's just a matter of being alert and actually taking the time to think about those types of things when you see it happen, instead of going, well, that'd suck if that happened, and then, you know, you don't do anything about it. It's being proactive instead of reactive.
Part of this year's goals is I've asked our public safety department to look at ways that we can help not only our employees but the airport employees be safe and at home, and one of the ideas is to have a fire extinguisher training. A lot of people have never used a fire extinguisher before, and if you actually get some little hands-on training, you would react a lot quicker knowing that you've done it before.
Look at what are our biggest risks and what are the easy solutions to do. Putting in a $40 smoke detector is pretty easy to do. If you've got workers' compensation claims, you can look at where are we having problems and kind of focus in on areas that can have some low-cost benefits. Do some searching. There's a whole bunch of stuff online. There are written programs, there's training materials that are out there. Safety's nothing new. We've got a lot of stuff and people are more than willing to share.
Ergonomics, to me, it's a discipline, a science that lives at this interface between human capabilities and work systems, the work environment. And thinking about physically how much we can lift, how we should be doing those kinds of tasks, how we can design those tasks to make it easier on our bodies, but also just how we organize work, how we schedule the workday. Soft tissue injuries, so things like low back pain, shoulder pain, elbow, wrist, hand pain, carpal tunnel syndrome, rotator cuff tendonitis, these sort of chronic musculoskeletal health outcomes have accounted for about 1 out of every 3 reported workplace, non-fatal workplace injuries. It represents an enormous burden to employers just in terms of the health experience of their employees, but then the economic benefits that are consequences that happen as a result. Thinking about an ergonomics program, if you've got a safety function in place already at your organization, you could add an explicit piece directed toward ergonomics, so trying to understand what injuries are occurring to what body areas, in what areas, or what specific tasks that workers may be doing. So trying to understand the forces involved, the postures that people get into, the duration that those tasks are being done, so redesigning the tasks to mitigate those exposures. There's also administrative controls, thinking about trying to schedule job rotation into the work schedule to spread the exposure out among a larger number of people. Participatory ergonomics is basically a process of delivering an ergonomics program, one way of doing it. The hallmark of a participatory ergonomics program is substantial involvement in those workers who are doing the tasks.
They came out here, they designed all of our desktops for us, and they brought out the chairs, and we let all of our employees sit down and kind of try 4 different chairs, see which one would work best. Each chair has different knobs underneath that control different heights of your chair. There's a lumbar bar in the back that can control where it's hitting you, but we also encourage them to get up during the day so you're not sitting, and it's kind of a circulate, just an exercise to get up and get you moving.
As part of the team environment, we have a daily stand-up every day that we stand at a wall where our work is prioritized.
You want to encourage people to get up out of those workstations periodically and move around. And there are some things you can do to build that into the environment. So for example, if you have someone in an office setting who does a lot of printing, this is a very simple, almost a silly example. Don't have that printer right next to the desk. Have it 20, 30 feet away, so they have to get up, walk to the printer to get the documents before they continue their work.
One of the things that I think causes a lot of stress at work is everything seems to be a major end of civilization issue. And we tend to treat it that way. You know, we're late for this, or that meeting it can't be scheduled, there's a problem with getting people together. Everything turns out to be a very, 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 very big deal. And that causes our stress level to go up. You get a little more epinephrine discharged from your body. You get a little more stress, you get a little more headache, etc. So the idea, at least my bottom line is, you know, if something really is an issue, a big, big issue, then you treat it that way. But the other stuff, you know, you sit down, you laugh a little, you tell a joke, and then you say, okay, how do we fix this? So the stress level is extremely important. In fact, if you look at the most serious issue in the workplace for the development of illness that we in Total Worker Health need to solve is stress. The top 10 chronic diseases that workers are affected by that cost money in the healthcare system, it isn't asthma, it isn't blood pressure, it's stress, it's depression, it's anxiety. The mental health aspects of work is a frontier that we need to move into and figure out how. It's very difficult because employers think, well, gee, that's all subjective, you know, because you have to rely on somebody telling you how they feel inside. And that's a very difficult issue, very difficult issue. But it's the #1 cause of chronic illness in the workplace. So that idea of figuring out how we ourselves can teach others to decrease that level so we can put things in perspective. The most serious issue in the workplace for the development of illness that we in Total Worker Health need to solve is stress.
The employer who really wants to use the Total Worker Health approach is going to take a look at stressors as hazards. And they're going to pull an employee group together just like they would any other hazard and say, okay, you know, where in our workplace are there things that cause you stress? You know, your ability to do your job, do you feel like you have a good fit with your job? How's your relationship with your supervisor, your coworkers? Any of those kinds of things can be stressors for employees. And I think thinking of them as hazards puts them in a framework that makes it easier for the small employer to address and actually control them. Stress absolutely has an impact on safety. When you think about how distracted you can be when something has happened, if you've lost a loved one or some other traumatic event, you're just very busy. Maybe you're going to school and work at the same time, and you've got all these things. You've got several projects going at work. it can be very difficult to stay engaged in what you are supposed to be doing right now.
If we define stress as a perceived threat, real or imagined, manifested in some sort of pressure of time plus task, we're all somewhat stressed. There's a lot asked of people at work, so deadlines and pressures, and our thoughts about that can really add to stress, So people just carry that with them home to a place that's also, I think, pretty stressful. People with families, and relationships. Employers need to acknowledge that the doing more with less creates stress, and to kind of say it out loud, and to create an atmosphere of maybe we're all in this together. There's always the resource of going and talking to somebody. There's a culture, I think, of seeing asking for help as some sign of weakness. We're hardwired to kind of easily go down a negative path, and people can, if they notice the things they've done right in the day, it's going to make you feel so much better than all the things you didn't do right in the day. This idea that we're never doing enough when in fact we're doing tons and tons.
We started out with the chaplains and the financial literacy. You'd see the 401k loans and the garnishments and things like that, and you think, well, we have to help people. You want to help people with some of the issues they have, and so the financial literacy kind of started it off. You see people struggling on a day-to-day basis. I'm a human resources manager. I'm not a social worker or a counselor, and so I'm not really equipped to do the things that are necessary or give them the advice they need, and that's why we have the Employee Assistance Program. We have chaplains that come in twice a week and just are face-to-face with employees as a resource for them if that's what they want.
They can do contracts with external EAPs, and so they would have a go-to person. There are some free resources in the community. Again, if somebody in a smaller organization happened to be uninsured and they still wanted to go and talk to someone, there's community mental health centers where you can access services on a sliding scale fee. There's crisis centers if people kind of don't know what to do. And people who are insured, you can always call your own insurance company and ask for resources. I'm feeling anxious. Do you have 3 people in my area within a 20-mile radius who can help me with that?
We want you the best part of your day to be when you go home. And so we always encourage everybody here, if you need a flexible schedule because your child's involved in baseball, softball, any kind of sport, we do a lot, and you don't have to take PTO, you can do a flexible schedule.
We do have what we call a Milers Club, and that encourages people to exercise, to take breaks, any stress relieving activities. You're credited for that. For me, stress relieving is trout fishing.
I would just recommend that you take a step back and recognize what's really important. And at the end of the day, life and business still is about relationship. And if you focus on the relational side, it's amazing how powerful that can be from an organizational standpoint with team and engagement with people.
we are a family-run business. My grandparents started the business. All 7 of the kids worked here. I started working here when I was 6. As far as happiness, you know, trying to be as flexible as possible with the schedules, especially for the younger students and stuff, is key. Not making them work when they have to have time off for schoolwork and stuff is huge, but also listening to them as far as you know, when they want to work. It's a fun environment. I mean, you know, you're working in one of the best beer stores in the world. You know, that says a lot. And also being able to empower people. You know, when I was young, my grandfather and father, you know, said, "Here's the ball, run with it," and I like doing that.
I think you have to be careful to look at it from what's typically a business approach of looking at an investment and saying, well, what's our return, right? And if we can't identify that return with some kind of an ROI or some kind of percent on the dollar, whatever it may be, then we don't do it. These programs they're an investment in your team that you can't measure from a dollar standpoint. The only thing you can measure is from when you look people in the eye and you just realize they're engaged.
It's just as important that when they go away from the job site and they go home and say they're doing something at home, like clean out gutters or anything that they're doing there, that they take that away from work and hopefully they use it at home as well, as far as the safety that they will do while they're at home, to take less risks. Because you know, one thing, they could get hurt here at work and then that's paid for, but if they get seriously hurt at home, then that's something, you know, they're missing work, and that's something we don't want.
We do have what we call a Milers Club, and that encourages people to exercise, to take breaks, and any stress relieving activities. You're credited for that, and we all know how important that is. For me, stress relieving is trout fishing.
We're going to do a biometric screening, and we're going to offer incentives with that for our employees. We're also going to have an entire year planned out. So each month they'll have challenges that they can meet if they choose to be involved. Also with our insurance and with the safety program, they have a platform as well, and you can merge those together. Everyone's really picked up on it, and they're very excited for it. Any employee is allowed to write on there. It's just a dry erase board, and you write your idea, and then you present it to either the senior leadership team or whoever would be in charge. Each person here is encouraged to always let us know if they have something that they think we can do to improve things.
You have to live it. It can't just be a slogan or a poster on the wall. That has to be consistent.